Shakespeare originated the "yo mama" joke. In his play Titus Andronicus, one of the characters, Chiron, exclaims, "Thou hast undone our mother," to which another character, Aaron, replies, "Villain, I have done thy mother." Hollywood moved from New York to Los Angeles to escape Edison's patents. Thomas Edison had patents on over 1,000 different things, including most of the technology needed to make high-end movies. So independent filmmakers moved to California, an area of the country where the judges weren't as friendly to Edison and his patents. Charles Darwin invented his own wheeled office chair. The famous researcher found that in his study area, he would have to go through the rigmarole of walking about the office from bench to bench, desk to desk. So to maximize his productivity and save him some valuable study time, he decided to attach wheels to his luxurious armchair. The Circus Maximus in Rome is still the largest capacity sports arena ever built. It was used for the execution of prisoners, part of the Roman triumph, and chariot racing. Historians believe the Circus Maximus could hold between 150,000 to 250,000 people at any given time. Spartans were so rich that nobody had to work. Ancient Sparta was an immensely wealthy country, mainly due to their conquest and domination of their neighbors, the Helots. When a Spartan boy reached adulthood and became a man, the Spartan state awarded him with an allotment of public farmland. They also rewarded him with a constituent of Helot slaves to work it. Ancient Egyptian pharaohs used their slaves as flycatchers. They would lather their slaves in honey, which would attract any flies to their slaves rather than themselves, as well as trap and kill the flies. During a Roman triumph, soldiers sang lewd songs about their commanders to amuse the crowds. A Roman triumph was kind of like a parade where a Roman general and his army would march through the streets, celebrating that they conquered new territory for Rome. There were many celebratory customs that occurred during a triumph, one of which was for the returning Roman soldiers to sing crude and banter-like chants about their commanders for the amusement of the crowds. Despite the legend, George Washington didn't have wooden teeth. The first American president had luxury dentures that were made out of gold, lead, and ivory, as well as being a mixture of animal and human teeth. The term "saved by the bell" does not originate from people being buried alive. Because of bells attached to coffins back in the day, people wrongly assume that the term "saved by the bell" comes from people being saved by these coffin bells. However, the term actually comes from boxing. One man survived both the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and then later Nagasaki. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a 29-year-old naval engineer on a 3-month business trip to Hiroshima. He survived the atomic bomb on August 6, 1945, despite being less than 2 miles away from ground zero. On August 7th, he boarded a train back to his hometown of Nagasaki. On August 9th, while being with colleagues at an office building, another boom split the sound barrier. A flash of white light filled the sky. Yamaguchi emerged from the wreckage with only minor injuries on top of his current injuries. He had survived 2 nuclear blasts in 2 days. Since the end of WWY, over 1,000 people have died from leftover unexploded bombs. During the Great War, an estimated 200 pounds of explosives were fired per square foot of territory on the Western Front. However, not all of these shells exploded. Since 1919, over 1,000 civilians and ordnance collectors have died from explosions caused by these in France and Belgium. Albert Einstein turned down the presidency of Israel. Einstein wasn't a citizen of Israel. However, he was Jewish. The German-born physicist was offered the post but turned it down in 1952, saying, "I am deeply moved by the offer from our state of Israel and at once saddened and ashamed that I cannot accept it. All my life I have dealt with objective matters. Hence, I lack both the natural aptitude and the experience to deal properly with people and to exercise official functions." Thomas Edison didn't invent most of the stuff he patented. It's fair to say that Edison was one of the world's most notorious intellectual property thieves. Of the 193 things he put a patent on, he stole most of them from geniuses like Nikola Tesla, Wilhelm Röntgen, and Joseph Swan, who originally invented the light bulb. Genghis Khan was tolerant of all religions. One was his interest in learning philosophical and moral lessons from other religions. Despite being a Tengrist, he often consulted with Buddhist monks, Muslims, Christian missionaries, and Taoist monks. Captain Morgan was a real person. The face of the much-loved rum brand was a Welsh privateer who fought against the Spanish alongside the English in the Caribbean. His full name was Sir Henry Morgan, and he was knighted by King Charles II. Turkeys were once worshipped as gods. The Mayan people believed turkeys were the vessels of the gods and honored them with worship. Fox tossing was once a popular sport. Popular with Europe's elite during the 17th and 18th centuries, fox tossing would involve a person throwing a fox as far and as high as they could. The saying, "fly off the handle," originates from the 1800s. It's a saying that refers to cheap axe heads flying off their handles when swung backward before a chop. 4% of the Normandy beaches are made up of shrapnel from the D-Day landings. More than 5,000 tons of bombs were dropped by the Allies on the Axis powers as part of the prelude to the Normandy landings. Scientists who have studied the sand on the beaches of Normandy, and they've found microscopic bits of smoothed-down shrapnel from the landings. A Japanese fighter pilot once dropped wreaths over the ocean to commemorate the dead from both sides during World War II. During a sea battle in the Pacific Ocean in December 1940, 2 Royal Navy ships, the HMS Prince of Wales and the HMS Repulse, were sunk by Japanese fighters. The following day, Japanese Flight Lieutenant Haruki Iki flew to the location of the battle and dropped 2 wreaths over the ocean. An ancient text called the Voynich manuscript still baffles scientists. Handwritten in an unknown language, the Voynich manuscript has been carbon dated to roughly 1404 to 1438. Hundreds of cryptographers and master code breakers have tried to decipher it over the years, with none succeeding in grasping its meaning or origin. The Eastern Roman Empire's weapon, called Greek fire, was used in ship-mounted flamethrowers. This weapon was so unique and deadly due to the fact that throwing water onto it would only feed the fire. It was mostly used in naval warfare, as the large flamethrowers needed for its projectile use could be better accommodated by ships rather than infantry. During World War I, the French built a fake Paris, complete with a duplicate Champs-Élysées and Gare du Nord. This fake Paris was built by the French towards the end of Wo. It was built as a means of throwing off German bomber and fighter pilots flying over French skies. Since 1945, all British tanks are equipped with tea-making facilities. Having 30 tanks destroyed by the Germans while English soldiers were taking a 15-minute tea break, British High Command realized if tank crews could make a brew on the go, then they wouldn't be susceptible to being caught with their pants down and their kettles out by the enemy. Shrapnel is named after its inventor. British Army officer Henry Shrapnel was the first person to invent an anti-personnel shell that could transport a large number of bullets to its target before releasing them. Cleopatra's reign was closer to the moon landings than the Great Pyramid being built. The Egyptian royal reigned from 51 BC to 30 BC, roughly 2,500 years after the Great Pyramid of Giza was built, and roughly 2,000 years before the first lunar landings in 1969. In ancient Greece, wearing skirts was manly. In fact, Greeks viewed trousers as effeminate and would mock any men who wore them. The UK government collected postcards as intelligence for the D-Day landings. This was an intelligence-gathering exercise. Initiated by Lieutenant General Frederick Morgan, he was searching for the hardest beaches to defend. The postcards were sent to the War Office and helped form part of the decision to choose Normandy as the location for the eventual D-Day landings. The Colosseum was originally clad entirely in marble. When you visit or see the Colosseum these days, you'll notice how the stone exterior appears to be covered in pockmarks all across its surface. The reason for the pockmarks is after the fall of Rome, the city was looted and pillaged by the Goths. They took all of the marble from the Colosseum and stripped it down to its bare stone setting. Augustus Caesar was potentially the richest man of all time. He was the first emperor of the Roman Empire. Nephew and heir of Julius Caesar, Emperor Augustus had an estimated net worth of $46 trillion when counting for inflation. The Great Fire of 1666 apparently traced its way to a baker's oven and caused massive damage across the city of London. It destroyed over 13,500 homes and displaced 80,000 residents and claimed the lives of 6 unlucky Londoners. Count Dracula was inspired by a real person. The titular count was based on none other than history's own Vlad the Impaler. As the monarch of Wallachia, a Romanian region of Transylvania, Vlad soon made a fearsome reputation for himself by killing and impaling the still twitching bodies of his enemies on long sticks which he planted outside his castle. The World War II Army of the U.S. is the biggest army in history. Due in part to the surge of American patriotism and because of conscription, the U.S. Army numbered 12,000 soldiers by the end of the war in 1945. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.